Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, or good night, depending where you're watching us or when you're watching us today. Today is Sunday, March 16, 2025, and welcome to another Parascientific Debate. My name is João Paulo Pedotti. I have been a volunteer at Conscientiology since 2013, a Conscientiological teacher since 2014, a volunteer and co-founder of LIDERARE since 2019, and one of the coordinators of the Invisible College of Leaderology since 2021. I have a degree in psychology, and today I work with public policy management. This event is organized by the Invisible College of Leaderology in partnership with LIDERARE. Both are conscientiocentric, non-profit institutions. Our focus is to study the topic of interassistential leadership from the perspective of the consciential paradigm. In other words, leadership based on cosmoethics, self-leadership, consciential freedom, and evolutionary co-leadership. Here with me to mediate this debate, we have Bernard Soyet. Bernard, how are you?
Hello all, I am a volunteer at IPC in São Paulo, Brazil, and at the Invisible College of Leadership. I have a degree in economics, and I have worked in leadership positions in private companies for over 20 years. The Parascientific Debates always take place on the third Sunday of each month, between 10:30 and noon, Brazil time. In the case of this specific debate, due to the time zone differences with our debaters, we are holding it a little earlier, between 8 o'clock a.m. and 9:30 a.m. Brazil time. The aim of these meetings is to delve into topics relevant to the study, understanding, and expansion of the new science Leaderology from the perspective of the consciential paradigm. The objective of our meetings is not to bring absolute truth, but rather to create a favorable space for everyone to reflect, contribute, disagree, refute, and build knowledge together with us within a parascientific vision. We then reinforce the principle of disbelief, as you say in Portuguese, princípio da descrença. Don't believe in anything, not even in what you are told here. Have your own personal experiences. Well, today we will debate the topic, Theories of Conscientiological Leadership in Different Cultures. It is worth mentioning that theories is a neologism that refers to the joint experience of theory and practice on the part of the conscience. That is, the coherence between thoughts and actions. And to discuss this topic, we invited two self-researchers, Jeffrey Lloyd, who is in a town near Brisbane in Australia, and Marcelo Pires, who is in Marietta, a town near Atlanta in USA. And fortunately, they are both here with us on the web. I then asked Jeffrey and Marcelo to introduce themselves and briefly tell us about their respective experience and history in conscientiology. Jeffrey, we can start with you, please.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to be here and to talk with you guys and share a bit of my own personal experiences and and I suppose history at this moment. So I first met Conscientiology in 1996. I started volunteering in 1999 while I was living in London, and started teaching the following year. And almost immediately I started traveling to different countries to give courses. So I went to the Netherlands a number of times, and also lots of different towns around the UK. After that, I ultimately ended up living in Brazil for a little bit, for a few months, and then came to Australia, where we opened up an educational centre here in Australia and gave classes obviously around Australia and in New Zealand as well. I've also given classes in North America and South America. And so getting there, we're getting some coverage. I don't think we'll get to Antarctica anytime soon. Not sure the penguins need our advice at this time, but yeah, it's been a great experience and a long journey, but a very rewarding one. And so we'll probably share a bit more of that as we go through. Marcelo, over to you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, John, and thanks, Bernard, for the invitation. Well, I met Conscientiology a lifetime ago in 1991. It was a kind of comes and goes all the time. And then 2008, I started volunteering. And at the same time, I started to be a Penta practitioner. And then we can talk about what is Penta later, because I think that's important for the topic of the day. And the last 10 years, I've been here in the United States, and I've been volunteering for 2 different consciential-centric institutions. That's ISAC, Interassistential Service for the Internationalization of Conscientiology, and also Reaprendença, that focus on parapedagogy, on the teaching side. So thanks again to be here, and then let's go to the debate.
Thank you so much for the introductions, and then we'll begin the debate. For those who are participating live, I ask you to send your questions and doubts via the YouTube website. So, to start, I would then like to ask the 2 debaters. It's our basic 2 questions to start. This is our permanent questions you have. What do you understand by interassistential leadership? That's number 1. And number 2, what is the experience of each of you exercising leadership within the Conscientiological community? So, Jeffrey, please.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, great questions and quite big ones, right? So interassistential leadership. Interassistance means we're doing assistance, but we are also being assisted within that process. So it's kind of like, if you look at it, if you're a teacher, who learns the most when anyone is teaching is the teacher, right? The teacher learns 2 times. And so it's enriching for your own intimate world. You get to understand the ideas more deeply. You get to expand, particularly in the approach that we talk about when we are talking about, say, giving lessons or talks on conscientiological topics, which involves multidimensionality and energies and parapsychism. Oftentimes during those courses and those activities, your parapsychism and your sensitivity expands. So you start to realize more and more of the consciousnesses, the different people you're treating, both physically, in the intraphysical, and non-physically. So I remember giving classes in New Zealand, for example, which, although it's primarily English speakers and a large percentage of Maori, the population is Maori, it's a lot of Polynesians there as well, a lot of from the Polynesian islands in the Pacific. And when I'm giving the class, I can feel an array of non-physical consciousnesses, Polynesian ones, watching, listening, learning, studying, sometimes criticizing or making observations. Or when you're teaching classes to some Islamic students, some Muslims, and you can feel the non-physical consciousness is participating, questioning, challenging, and then you're giving a class to the physical people, obviously, but you're giving a much broader class, and you're being helped to perceive those situations more clearly. So inter-assistance, right? So I'm learning more about cultures, I'm learning more about the individuals, I'm learning more about the network that they are connected into and the interconnections that we have, and my own ability or inability, depending on the situation, to build a rapport, to have empathy with those cultures. And so, and to analyze and see, okay, who am I dealing with? What jokes are going to be okay? What stories are going to be okay? What information is going to go well and clarify things and make things expand, and what things is going to make the field, the energetic field we're trying to create, shrink. And so obviously what we're trying to do is clarify and expand and help people to have more space to think, as opposed to the opposite. So inter-assistance, I've been a volunteer for nearly 3 decades. And what I see is that the more I can give on these fronts, the more I get back, the more rewarding my life is, the calmer I am inside of myself, the more sense of satisfaction and personal enrichment I feel. So as a wee personal case study, I can just share, before I encountered Conscientiology, and I was in my early 20s, and I was successful by some measures, right? As a sportsman, as a person earning an income and a salary in London, I was doing all right, but I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't happy. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I thought, well, what's the point of all this? This is kind of just nonsense. If this is what life is, I was like, well, seems pretty stupid and pointless, which understandable. But if you're engaged in starting to do things to help other people, all of a sudden your ego becomes very small, and the focus and the priority of assisting and trying to help as many people as much as you can takes on a lot of momentum. So anyway, that's interassistential behavior, and leadership is when I think, in my view, you start to be able to be more coherent and act as a role model, a better role model. So when I'm presenting things and I'm talking about things, the gap between what I do and what I say is very small. Therefore, my energies have more moral authority. A person who's very experienced and coherent can say the same thing as someone who is very inexperienced and very incoherent. You can say the same words, but the impact is completely different from one person to the next. One really can make people change their life just because of those words, and the other person, it's treated as nothing. So there's that degree of seriousness that interassistential leadership conveys. Mine in that role, I've described a little bit about my process, and what I think is the key is starting to try to find how you can assist. What is your little role in the bigger game that's at play? What are your characteristics, your traits, your experiences? What's the best of you that you can present, deliver, share, and use to help to mature? So, I've done educational centers and done many courses, and over, dedicating 7 days a week, every night time and every day. I've translated 700 Conscientiology experience into English along with the team, but who did the majority of the work was myself. I founded Isaac, which is this nonprofit organization that is trying to help internationalize Conscientiology, make it more available to more people around the world. So in terms of leadership, there's some little things I've done, and it's primarily about serving the greater good It's primarily about trying to contribute to make the work of the extra-physical helpers, the multidimensional interassistential maxi mechanism. What's your role in that mechanism? What can you do? What difference can you make? How can you contribute? And what makes sense for you to do? So it's not like it's an obligation. It's an internal need. It's something that comes from within you, and it's expressed within you, and you've got to find the way to deliver on that. And that's our challenge for life. So if people ask you what's life about, assistance, interassistance, evolution, and trying to make it a coherent package, and advance yourself in the process and contribute to the advancements of others to the degree possible. And I think I've spoken more than enough, and I would love to hear what Marcelo has to say on these questions too.
Just complimenting Marcelo, because I think Jeff said things that are very, very meaningful to what we're trying to understand and study in leaderology. The empathy, when you talk about that, I think this is very distinguished when you have the perception of leader as the one who knows everything and tell other people what to do. And when we're talking about the empathy from the start and bringing the connection to the consciential paradigm, it's a whole other way to interact. And that's what we're trying to understand. How do we do these interactions with a better scale and by choice? We volunteer to do that. That's not an obligation. And don't believe in anything. Have your own experience. What do you gain when you do that? And what do you gain when you don't do that? Test. Put yourself out there, because this is a challenge, as you said, for this life and many others that we already have, we will have. But we had, I believe, from this point back, we had more lives thinking these old paradigms of leadership, and now we're doing a very big effort to expand the synaptics and our understanding and our experiences. So I was just want to point those things, Marcel, because I think they're very helpful. Please go on.
No, and Jeffrey gave a wonderful experience sharing about what's going on and about the topics. But I want to grab one additional topic when we talk about interassistance. And then we are talking here about theories of conscientiological in leadership. So it's theory and practice together. So when you're talking about this interassistance, more than ever, that's shoulder. Everyone, and then Jeffrey touched a little bit on it, everyone has something to offer. And then sometimes I can imagine a newcomer or somebody that's still a little bit on the side of the road, like on the shoulder, and listen to Jeff and then say, hey, I need to study too much, or I need to improve this to start acting. And then that's not the point. The point is, since everyone has some strong traits or some qualities, and then that can contribute, we learn from each other. Like Jeffrey was talking about the teaching. Every time that we teach, we are learning too. And that's the key thing from the social interactions that we have in our social roles in the society or intraphysical society, and then also expanding it to when you are in the extraphysical environment, we have the opportunity to act every time. So as we recover our lucidity, and then we'll start to understand better how we can contribute, we are going to have a better performance on this interassistance mechanism that we have. And then the learning, the improvement is by doing. Every time that an opportunity of evolution is offered to me and I step back, I am kind of losing an opportunity. Okay, And then one thing, thinking about newcomers, when you're talking about here consciential paradigm, we are talking about multidimensionality, several dimensions, okay? We have something beyond intraphysical. We are talking about Theorice, okay? Series of lives. We have several lives. We are talking about energies, okay? The word is about bioenergies. We are talking about cosmoethics. We are talking about self-research. Those are pillars of the consciential paradigm that we're talking about. So every time that you talk here, go beyond the interactions that you have in the society. Like, it's not only about, for example, in a work environment, my relation with my manager or my boss. It's a relation with that person, who was that person in the past, and then who are the extra-physical consciousness that should be around both of us. So the level of interaction increased a lot. And then the understanding about who we are, and then not only in this life, but in several lives, help us to better act on this intersistential, because that's an opportunity that we have in intersistence to do good and to, as Jeff said, to going through the evolution. As Jeff said, to have the empathy with the person, okay? Going beyond the empathy, going to energetic coupling, energetic assimilation, and then getting a deeper understanding about what the person is feeling, what the point of view of the person, and then we can get an agreement, and then a way forward. And then, John, you want to...
No, continue.
And then, when you get this, and I'm going to make a link of this intersistence, because this brings to me every time, because I said in the beginning, I came to Conscientiology, I left for personal or professional reasons a couple of times. Then something was missing, and then I came back, because the moment that you are not doing, you are not acting, you feel like a existential emptiness. It's like something's missing. Jeffrey mentioned about the work. Okay, that's not only something Monday to Friday. Okay, what adds to us? But it could be in the professional life. It could be on volunteering. Could be in our social family. How we are doing it. How we are using the things to our evolution to help each other. And this, like feeling that something is missing, that lots of time drive us to do some improvements, force us to do some changes, and to assume some leadership roles. And then, like, considering that several times, I saw that, hey, somebody supposed to be doing something here. And then I realized that nobody's doing. That's the moment that you could step up and taking an additional responsibility. Like, I have an invitation here. Like, I'm here in the United States. Okay, I'm doing my best. We're talking about conscientiological subjects with clarification task. So, who are the other people here in the United States that are connected with the ideas, that have done like an intermissive course, that could join the group? Because, like, one person can go faster, a group can go further. So that's the point. It is the responsibility. Okay, like when I was in another consciential-centric institution, Apex, I started to interact with the people, and then I said, oh, I want to help more. And then I volunteered to become a teacher at Apex. I volunteered later to become the international coordinator of Apex. But, sometimes you're volunteering because you're not seeing other people doing it. because the key thing with intersubstantiality, and that's the challenge, you need to get out of the ego. And this should be not about how you want the people to see you, but about what we need as a group to do.
Yeah.
That's the key thing.
Yeah.
And that's a process, because we have several lives that it was about who I am. And then that's a recycling process, that's a transformation process to go through who I need to be to evolve. And then that's the key thing. And then when I, like today, I'm with Jeff in the collegiate of Isaac, it's like, it's a learning. I learned from him, I learned from Virginia, that's our other colleague on the collegiate. I learn more than I think that they are going to learn from me. But the key thing is like what they need from me, from my experience, from who I am at this moment, that I can contribute together. And then in this process of contributing and doing, I am going to get even better. Okay, I'm going to evolve. Marcelo, in 1 year, you'll be not the Marcelo that was this year or the past year. That's the key thing.
Yeah, and I think you said something very important, which is the parapsychism related to all of this. When we're talking about leadership in the conscientiological paradigm, we're talking about multidimensions, we're talking about the conscience beyond the body, we're talking about the relation with intruders, with helpers, we can access some informations, the communication between the dimensions, the communication between the consciousness, we can access in many different ways. And when we're putting ourselves as the leader role in that specific time and place, multidimensionally speaking, we can use those resources to do those things you both said. We can think, we can have more empathy, we can focus on the group. We have some questions here from Liliana that I think will help to clarify this that we're talking about. But from the start, I think we said some very important things that makes us question, what can I actually do that help me clarify myself, and through those interactions, also clarify the group. Not that we are right about everything, but clarify about the evolutionary process that we are in. So these are some big questions that I think conscientiology puts in the plate, and the leadership, in many cases, help that or could help that. And depending on how do we act, this is more or less helpful for the group. Liliana Alexandre, thank you for the question. Morning, evening, I would like to ask both guests how the fact of they having been born and or living in different countries have been affecting their theories or their practice of leadership. So we talked a lot about the principles and the essence of the leadership through conscientiology. And I would like to understand from both of you, how do you see this?
Can I go first this time, Jeff? Yeah, so
Certainly, good, sir.
Liliana, thanks for the question. I think that the key thing on it is the fact that culture, or even the Holocene where we are immersed, that's a kind of aquarium. And then we are the fish inside it. So when I was in Rio, the city where I'm born in Brazil, I was involved in a particular environment. The moment that I moved to São Paulo, I changed my environment. I start to see things in myself, and then I started to see things in others that were different. So the moment that I moved out of Brazil, and then, for example, today here in the last 10 years in the United States, it gave me a perspective to see the things different, like strong qualities and the weak ones on the American people. And then on that moment, I start to reevaluate my strong traits and my weak traits, and also considering what would be absent traits that they have. So this move out of the country for me, it was getting out of my aquarium, getting out of my comfortable zone, and then getting me the opportunity of reflection, and then understand better how I was acting and what I would need to improve as a leader.
Jeffrey, I would like to understand more of this question from you too, but Liliana did an addendum. And how do you think your intermissive course interfered with the theoretical part of Theorice of the task and interassistential service of leadership? So I think these connections are very important. Living in another country or acting in different countries, and this positive baggage of the intermissive course. How is this for both of you?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously if you change cultures and environments, you have to adapt. So you have to grow, you have to change. You're not going to stay the same. And life is like that on many fronts, but cultures is another aspect to that. So being in a new culture or a new country. And so you're going to adapt. And traveling, whether it's as for tourism or you're living somewhere else, that kind of breaks your head in some way. You're going to see things you've never seen before. You're going to have experiences you've never experienced before. And you need to build your resilience, right? You need to be more alert, more attentive, more aware. And all of that helps a lot for you to develop your parapsychism and to see your self-research develop. You know, new places, new experiences, new aspects of Jeff appear, and I have to deal with those. And in terms of self-definition, you know, you can see yourself in a certain way if you only live in one culture or in a certain neighborhood, maybe your entire life. That's me, that's that, and everything reinforces this definition of who you are. You know, we're much, much more than we think we are. There was one phrase that was said many years ago, and I liked it a lot. And it was like, you know, you're all much better than you think you are, but not in the way you think you are. Right? So we tend to try to compensate for our problems. We tend to try to hide our defects. Many people aren't very happy to talk about their challenges and stuff, whereas that needs to be a natural part of human life. We need to be prepared to talk about our own, and therefore we have the moral authority to actually make some observations about perhaps some other people a little bit more. If we're only pointing at other people, it's not really in my view, a cosmetical way to approach stuff. So looking at the intermissive course and the role that plays. Well, what is the intermissive course? It's that period of learning between lives in preparation for a more technical upcoming life, the next physical life in this physical bodies. And so what are main things that are covered in the intermissive course? There's a number of different themes, a number of different possibilities, but some of those things are like around anti-emotionality, around developing more the mental soma, around being more open and universalistic, which is one thing that Isaac has as its main approach. So being less in our small little egocentric world and opening up to the challenges of the bigger, broader world, and trying to deal with the consequences of working at a scale and in a way, like for example through conscientiology, where you're going to get a lot of counterflow, right? So the intermissive course is to prepare you to do all that you can in the next life. It's not to say you're going to be perfect and get everything right. I still make mistakes with way too high a frequency. But I try to learn, I try to change, I try to get better. So as long as we can minimize our mistakes and improve the good aspects of ourselves, or let the good aspects of ourselves and our personality, our traits, our characteristics manifest more, we're doing a better service to ourselves and a better service to the, let's say, the mega projects that we're trying to contribute to with our time and energy through these volunteering capacities.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, and I think these are very real topics that when someone's studying conscientiology and putting themselves with those opportunities to evolve, to think differently, it will cause a lot of discomfort many times. It will make us challenge the beliefs maybe we carried for hundreds of years when we think the conscience that the conscience doesn't die, that we are living the extra-physical period and the intra-physical period alternatively. But when we are here now with the first century that conscientiology is actually materialized, when we have these opportunities to put ourselves out there, and both of you are having the experience in other cultures and other countries, because here in Brazil we have a vast community of conscientiology, but other countries there isn't. So I would like to understand from both of you, how do you see and how do you exercise the self-leadership with the focus on the evolution of the conscience, and how do you maintain the self-coherence in different countries? Because one thing is, as Marcelo said, you being involved in an aquarium, but you don't have to be corrupted by the ideas or the weak traits of that community. You can think for yourself, and you can act according to your values and your purpose. So those are some things that we consider very related to the self-leadership, the evolutionary self-leadership. So I'd like to understand from the experience of both of you, how did you exercise that during those years that you had to deal with many different cultures and groups, but having the main goal of the Max projects and the growth of conscientiology and to the reurbanization of the planet?
Well, I'm going to abroad Brazil. One thing that's important is to understand what's your docenic importance, what's your weak traits, strong traits, absent traits, your conscientiometric, self-conscientiometric evaluation, and what's the relation that you have with each country, each culture where you are heading to. Okay, like one example. Okay, there is one thing that's called holotocenic form, and then I have a strong history in Europe, for example. And then when I lived in Europe, it was very hard for me to do any conscientiological activity. Okay, I had a trend to fall back to probably things that I did in previous lives in that region, because create kind of rapport, a kind of connection with that docenic pockets that we have there in Europe. So when you come here to Brazil or to United States, I don't have a history on that particular country. So I felt more free to study, to research, to develop, and to look after what I want. So first thing I would say is understand the ground where you are. That's my initial message. And then, of course, you can go in a place that you have a past there, a strong past, but it'll be more difficult. You need to have more attention because you're going to need self-discipline. You're going to need have a network because we do not evolve alone. Like today, we need to get the benefit of technology. And for example, how can I connect? I'm in connection with Jeff. He's in Australia. I have friends in Brazil. Okay, so I know people in Europe. I know people here in the United States. So you need to create this interconnection to that you talk with people that develop these subjects, because you need to understand that in your daily life, you're going to talk with people and it'll be only religion, mysticism, or materialism. And then sometimes you try to talk with them about these subjects and you're not receptive. So it's important to create these connections because it's about inter-assistance. So you need to work shoulder with shoulder with other people. And then with time, you're going to find people closer to you that has also this paradigm, the consciential paradigm. But it's the three things that I would bring first, and then I will let Jeff complement. First, know your ground. Second, discipline. And third, create your network, your interconnections with other people to keep going.
Yeah, those are three really, really good points, Marcelo. And, this thing of knowing ourselves, self-knowledge, that's not easy. Like it sounds super simple. Yeah, I'm Jeff, I'm this, I was born in New Zealand, I'm this, I work as this. That has very little to do, well, has some stuff to do, but deeper self-knowledge, like what's Jeff good at? What are my strong traits? What are my weak traits? What are my absent traits? I literally don't have them strong or weak, right? As inside myself. That knowledge, in my personal experience, takes years and years to develop. But what's great is that we're our own problem, right? But we're also our own solution. So there is always a way to solve stuff. It's just not necessarily going to be snap of the fingers and 5 minutes later you've got it sorted. But one thing that I've found that really helps to sustain yourself in different environments and over many, many years, let's say, of doing, different types of volunteering activities is big projects. Work out for yourself in your life what you need to work on. What are the best things that you can deliver in your life with your talents, with your abilities, with your free time, with this whatever you've got available, and stick to it. I talked about translating one of these big books, like it's over 1,000 pages. I started in 2003. The book finally got published in 2018, right? 13, 15 years, scary, of persistence and effort. But I used to wake up here in Australia every morning. I would sit down for an hour or an hour and a half and translate and revise and translate and revise and go every day. And those things help. I liked the work. I liked that study. I liked the words. I like trying to find the best way to make to convey the ideas and also represent the author in the way that the author wrote, not how I think it should have been written. So projects help a lot. And I'm talking about also discipline, another great theme that you mentioned, Marcelo. I wrote down as an idea personal strength. And I don't mean like physical strength. I mean, how firm are you? What's your degree of self-absolutism in relation to yourself, your projects, your initiatives, your efforts? And can you stick with the thing? I've got some proof in my life. The example I gave of that translation, I know I can stick with stuff. If I think it's got value, if I think it's a cosmoethical engagement, if I think it's going to produce a lot for other people, my motivation is there and I'll keep going. And then a third one I wanted to mention, 3 for me as well, was evolutionary intelligence, right? So your own internal intelligence related to evolution and evolutionary processes, both for yourself and for other people. Therefore, what is the best thing you can do with your time? What is the best thing you can contribute? What is the best strategy you can have to do stuff? And I think we're much, much smarter when we were planning this life than we are here in this life. So, you know, we've got to try to think big. We've got to try to do the best we can here to even get close to what we were planning before we came into this physical existence. Again, that's really a comment that you don't want to believe anything, but you want to see if you can apply the principle of disbelief and have an open mind to see if that makes sense for you. So let's go ahead and see how we go on those fronts.
I think what both of you said, and connecting with the idea, the theory of evolutionary self-leadership, we can be really not only practical about it. What can I do that will help other people and I can actually stick to it no matter what? And how can I evolve while I'm doing that? Because I think one of the importance of evolutionary opportunities are exactly the fact that we are also evolving while we're doing it. It's not to be in the comfort zone, but we can see that we can do more than we thought. Just like you said, Jeff, I don't remember exactly the sentence, but we're very good, but not exactly as we think we are. So to unravel that to ourselves, we have to do, and maybe do things we never thought we could. We can understand better how we as consciousness can contribute to the evolution of the group, and that includes ourselves. So the principle, one of the principles of evolutionary self-leadership is very connected with what both of you said, and brings the responsibility back to ourselves. So the evolutionary intelligence, I think it's very connected to that. And also putting again in the debate, the parapsychism, because we're not only interacting, doing in those moments with one dimension, even our own dimension. We're not talking about our physical body. We're talking about ourselves as a conscious, a multidimensional consciousness. And this is, for most people, and I include myself, very different to manifest ourselves in this paradigm, and the leadership roles and the opportunities. And I would like to understand from both of you. Jeff brought the participation in big events. So how was the experience of being part? And big events could be a class of Conscientiology in a city that never had one. That's a big event. It could be a congress. It could be the translation of, I forgot how to say tratado in English.
A treatise.
A treatise. So those are big events. So how was the experience from both of you? But talking about events that have a place in time with other people, I think it would be better to understand this relation with the multidimensional part of the work, being the leader or being part of the group that is leading those events in different countries and in different cultures.
Yeah, look, I'll just say a little thing and then pass to Marcelo. And I think it's interesting, and it's very, I think, different depending on the profile of each of us. So Marcelo has certain strengths that I don't have, and likewise I have strengths that Marcelo doesn't have at this stage. And so how we're going to be impacted by a certain event will vary. You know, starting Penta is a big event, right? And we can read the Penta manual and say, yeah, no, I still don't qualify to even start. And then, you know, Waldo Vieira can be looking at you saying, shaking his head when you can't raise your hand because you haven't started Penta, like, you know. So he's saying, dude, you need to start, get going. And I'm there going, yeah, no, I don't qualify. So the big events, we're probably not the best ones with our current level of lucidity to determine and to be aware of all the consequences. I think you need to be bold. I think you need to see a vision and see a set of consequences that you know are positive. And then you just got to go and you've just got to experiment and have that discipline, have that consistency, have the best organized cosmoethics and intentions that you can, and go. Like, life is, you know, a big laboratory. We're all running lots of different experiments, and we don't know what the outcomes are going to be. That's why we're doing this. So there's a few thoughts, but Marcelo.
No, I'm laughing because I'm remembering a movie, okay? I like to watch Harry Potter, okay? And then there is one of the movies that he's in a lake, he's being attacked, and then he sees somebody coming to help him, and he thinks that his father. And then the reality that he travels in time, and then he was the guy, and then he was standing there waiting. Oh, my father will come and help him. And then after a moment, he does it, and he made it something that he never done before. It's just like that when you talk about big events. Okay, sometimes we wait for somebody to do something when in reality we need to do it ourselves. Nobody will do it. We are going to do in group, okay? So we need to step up, okay, and getting the right people around us and do it. And it's normal that we doubt ourselves about if we have the capacity to do that. And probably we don't have the full capacities, the full qualities, the traits that we need. But as you do it, you're going to get better, you're going to exercise. And then that's the key thing. Like last year, we did a course here that it was a Conscientiological course and entry course here in Georgia. Okay, it was the first time. It was tough. Yes, it was tough. It was a lot of learning. I got better with that. So that's the key thing, and you'll be different from everyone. But since we are talking about big events, I just want to, if you allow me, João, I want just to make an invitation to the group, because we are going to have a big event in Brazil. We are going to have the 5th International Week of Conscientiology in Foz do Iguaçu, Brazil. So if anybody wants to get more information about that, we are not going to have time to talk about it. Let's continue. But go to isicons, isicons.org, isicons.org, and then you're going to get information about a big event that we're going to have that also LIDERARE is contributing with us.
Yes. And I think these kind of activities are very helpful because we connect different institutions that have a common goal to develop conscientiology, but we can also interact with many different groups. And this is one of the things that I think when we get to a point where we want to step up in the evolution process, naturally we're going to have to lead, not because we're better than other people, but maybe in that moment we have something that we can share. We have something within ourselves that we can put forward.
Yep.
And knowing this, as Jeff said, is one of the challenges, I think, from the history of humanity. Who are we? And what can we do? So those perspectives of the you acting to develop self-leadership, evolutionary self-leadership, I think creates a flow that makes those opportunities come to our door and knock and ask, do you want to be part of it now or not? Because this is something that is important to be done. But I never thought I would be able to do that. I don't think I can, but the opportunity is there. So I'd like to understand also from both of you, what were those life-changing opportunities you think in this experience that you have in this process of conscientiology that help you to understand more being in the multidimensional you represent the multidimensional conscientiology. You are not the chosen one, but in that moment, you're representing that by what you do. I don't know if I could make myself clear, but if you could say what was this point from both of you, so we can also talk and understand more about what that meant as a leadership role, for example.
I think a big thing is being available, which sounds simple. We're all here, we're all on this planet, but are we available? And what are we available to? What doors do we have open and what doors do we have closed? Doors to the helpers, I want to have open. Doors to the intruders, I want to have closed. Until I choose to open it, treat them, help them, and move on. So, these moments that I've had in conscientiology, I was treated very kindly by the helpers. I remember the first time I did an itinerance teaching. New teacher, but I had to go to Holland, and I was given a class. And as soon as I shut my house door in London, I was encapsulated like in a bubble, and I felt it. And I had to go, get on the train, go to the airport, get on the plane. The whole way I was in this bubble because I wasn't strong enough in myself with my own energies to do that myself and to arrive there and be fine. So they were protecting me for that work. So there's been many moments where I realized I wasn't doing my part in the process sufficiently well. And that's great. I don't want to be treated like a little infant. I want to see what my problems are and I want to grow. And, then in time, like within a year, I was given another courses in Holland, and we had 100 students in this room. And I was like going, what is going on? Like we usually had, I've given lots of classes to one person, and he got 100 students here, and I'm like going, what is going on? Like, what? I couldn't comprehend. So there was a lot of moments where I saw the support that was being given for me just to be a little bit better and give a slightly better class and just do a better job of things. And that was a little bit embarrassing on many times. And then it's a case of, well, grow, get better at it, learn. And so, that's sort of what was evoked when you're asking the question. But Marcelo, what's your take on this?
It would be something similar. I think that in my case, it's the volunteering. Okay, because the moment that you start volunteering, you start to open a time that you're going to be more open to listen. Because sometimes we are so busy in our daily lives that what we call the robotization, existential robotization, that you stop listening. And then that's the key thing, because when you're volunteering, you are giving a little bit of yourself to the other, and at the same moment you're kind of going out of your routine. And this helped me to start listening to what the helpers want to message me. Okay, and then well, as I start to understand that I need to improve, I start to understand some areas that I was not good, and at the same moment need to keep that mindset that when you learn that something you're not good, is for you to get better, not to kind of blaming yourself or doing some self-victimization approach. That's because that's evolution. Every day we are going to discover something that we need to improve. And then this giving away to the others could be on volunteering, could be on conscientiological teaching. It helped me a lot to get better and to understand how can I improve my overall, including the leadership.
Yeah, and there is a work that was published in the first edition of Liderare, the journal of Liderare that we published, that it's talking about the erology of leadership. So yes, we are going to make mistakes, that's a fact. And how do we take an evolutionary aspect of it, as you said, Marcelo? This is one of the main keys, and I'm talking also to myself, that is important to always keep in mind, because the challenges, evolve is a challenge, but a good one. And then when we put ourselves as those, I always had it, I don't know about you, but when I was in a position that I had to lead something, I would be more exposed the strong traits and the weak traits. And that's it's not good or bad. It's a place with more intensity, with the helpers and with the intruders, and making more effort to sustain that position is an exercise. As you said, Jeff, we can have the help of the helpers to be in a safe bubble, multidimensionally, so we can have the work done. And with time, we can learn, if we want and if we put the time to it, to make that bubble ourselves, so the helpers can focus in other aspects of the work. And as you said, I think this is really rich, when we don't have to perceive the error as being opposed to evolving, but being part of it, especially in the leadership roles. Because one of the beliefs, most common, and also talking from experience, the leader cannot make mistakes. And that's not true when we go to the reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's something really interesting that I was thinking just now. Well, I found it interesting, you may not, but there was one thing that helped me shape what I want to be as a leader, or how I want to be, was, learning from other people's mistakes, seeing leadership styles that I was going, oh, I really don't want to be anything like that. Something very autocratic, something that demeans other people. I really don't like that. And it's been shocking when I've seen that at times, or been unable to admit you're wrong as a leader. I've seen that. I'm going, but that means you're always going to be right. That's just impossible. That doesn't make sense. So in my little brain, I'm like, that can't be, So learn from our own mistakes, but also learn from other people's mistakes as well. Like you're observing, and we can see many times other people's mistakes more easily than we see our own. right? And so we've got to be open to learning and forming a set of principles that you want to employ when you're in a leadership position. How do you want to be? Do you want to command and control and point and just tell people and no argument? Or do you want to try to find other ways that are more inclusive and balanced?
And I don't know if you think this makes sense, but one of the things we study more when we're talking about developing the interstitial leadership is that it begins with the evolutionary self-leadership. So you can have these pillars within ourselves that we know, that we act, that we tested, that we have confidence in them, so we can better serve and then learn and then evolve. I don't know if for you that makes sense as a progress or a path singular and unique for each one, but a process to interstitial leadership.
Yeah, makes sense, João. And then it's like everything needs to start from within us. Okay, so the leadership, that's most of all, that's a self-improving process. Okay, and then from that we go to the group, and then we expand as more as we can. And then the approach from Jeff that about learning from others. Okay, that's great, but we always need to remember, okay, the action is started in us.
Yeah. And I don't know if you had the experience in different groups or different cultures with the understanding of the multidimensionality, for instance, because when we're talking about conscientiology, many cultures already think that multidimension experience is possible, but maybe not through the lens, or maybe not with the same understanding as the consciential paradigm. And in those moments, the self-experience translates in the energies as well. So I'd like to understand how was in classes or in lectures that you both experienced this exercise of talking with those different groups. How was the reception of the understanding of multidimensionality that conscientiology provokes?
Yeah, I remember in a conference, I think it was the Light Workers Conference in New Zealand, that we're invited to go and speak at nearly 20 years ago, somewhere around there. And they had quite a ritualized approach to things. They're all wanted to talk about multidimensionality. The field that installed when we were presenting was really interesting and constructive. But I often find when people have experience in a certain line of knowledge that includes multidimensional stuff, they're often, and this is something we ourselves need to be careful of, they're often quite closed. So they've kind of probably been attacked, as we can be attacked, because we are very open and talking about multidimensionality and non-physical things. And some people go, well, that's not scientific, that's just weird. And so, you go to talk in the Science of Consciousness conference in Tucson or wherever they are every second year, somewhere else around the world. And you get a lot of pressure. You get a lot of extra physical attacks. But you need to respect and remain coherent within yourself and your own principles, your own code of cosmoethics, your own, and you talk about pillars, right, inside of yourself, and then it's a case of, well, who are you living your life for? Whose recognition and acceptance do you need? And if you put anyone else's above your own, right, I need my own acceptance, I'm living my life for myself. And if you put other people and so on, and value other people's opinions of you above how much you value your own opinion of yourself, you've got a massive problem. You're in a hole. So this evolutionary self-leadership, as you described, a great phrase, it has to be, you have to have it. You have to value your own opinion more than anyone else. Whether that's an evolutionologist or a Serenissimo, you're open to hearing their points of view, but you have to back your own opinion. Who's responsible for your evolution? You are. No one else.
Yeah, and I think that's very tricky sometimes. I agree with you, Jeff.
Absolutely.
We have to also, I think the principle of disbelief is very helpful in all the cases, because don't believe in anything, especially when it's something I have absolute certain, because sometimes it may not be true. And that openness, I think you said, it's very important. If I only go by what other people say, no matter who they are, I'm putting myself in the position of being led all the time.
Yep.
But
yeah, and on the other hand, you've got to have
around,
paradiplomacy as well, right? You've got to be paradiplomatic. You have to have paradiplomacy.
And I think that's the line that is very interesting when we're talking about this, because what informations do I have in a moment that I have to put more energy and sustain that point of that position? Because many times, I think that's, we live this here in Brazil, but I believe for you that's more vast, maybe, as Marcelo said, his experience in Europe, that we had roles of leadership in other lives with other groups, and we said things that are that have repercussions till this day. And maybe this is an opportunity to talk to the same group, of part of this group, and say something different. And this time they might say, but why this time are you right? What this time makes you, the last time you said something completely different. Why do you have to believe? Don't believe, have your own experience. But I think this is a very challenging thing that you just said here, because I don't know if I'm always right, but in this moment in time, this is what I think. Maybe tomorrow I'll think differently. And the self-leadership, the evolutionary self-leadership in that, questioning my own beliefs, I think for me is a very big challenge. And it's an exercise, because I may think something, but the facts by the time show that I wasn't seeing the big picture, maybe. I was seeing part of it. Marcelo, please, you are...
And João, one thing that's important, Jeffrey and you talked about paradiplomacy, and then as part of paradiplomacy, something very important is the polyglottism. Okay? Because one thing that you realize is, depending on the language that you're speaking, you make evocation of different groups. Okay, both of helpers and of assisted. So, moment that you are giving, for example, doing something that we had in Isaac, okay, meetings. The example, we do all our meetings in English. We have like an extra physical field established with helpers, assisted, and so on. The moment for any reason we change the language, for example, to Portuguese, the field changes. The groups that are present acting change. So there is also, besides all this paradiplomacy about the groups that we have present, the connections that we make will be stronger or weaker depending which language you're using to give that class, to make that debate. So that's one additional piece of the puzzle that we have here.
Yes, and the language, for example, I don't have the experience with the language We had some differences in the themes of the debates, for example. We see that the helpers change depending on the team, the topic, and the extra-physical groups that are present as well. But you said something that I think it's very connected with the holotoscenes that we see around the globe, depending on the culture and depending on the language, depending on the country. So Conscientiology started in Brazil. One of the theories is because it's it's not new because it exists.
It's more open.
It's more open. We don't have a 1,000-year culture here that was established and cannot change. We have many different cultures. Maybe that helps. And when you say about multiculturalism and empathy, I think that's a very important, not only clue, but a tool united with cosmoethics and parapsychism that we can exercise this paradiplomacy cosmoethically. We can be able to have the para green card to different groups, and the helpers can count on that. I don't think I have the para green card to many groups now. Maybe I have to some. How can I expand that? What do I have to change in myself that I can connect with those groups and the interaction is healthier? I think that's a very for
A massive question.
leadership, a very big challenge.
And then my first question is, am I already assisting the groups that already have a green card to assist you?
Yeah.
That's the key thing. And that's the part of learning by doing. We have like groups that it's already our target assisted groups, okay? So start with them. Start with them, and then most likely you have a lot of work to do with the particular groups. I have. And then after that, naturally, you're going to add more groups that are more further on your past, deeper on your past.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Because you got the ego karma, you got the group karma, and then polykarma. And so all the components of your group karma, right? You know, I'll just share an example of a thing that happened to me years ago. But I had an experience, and the message from the experience was, you know, essentially you've talked about where have you got a green card? Like, where do you have access to, and where is it a bit problematic for you? And the experience sort of said, well, you know, you're basically good pretty much everywhere, but you've got issues with Scotland. And I'm like, okay, interesting. You know, so was I Scottish or was I English? And was I invading Scotland? Like, what was the story? So where was I born in this life? In a city that is known as the Edinburgh of the South. So in New Zealand, the city I was born in was settled by Scottish people, and it's called Dunedin, right? Which is the other name, the old name for Edinburgh. And the streets are all Edinburgh. And all my friends at school were McAllisters and Mackenzies and Kelks and all these Scottish people, you know, heritage-wise. And so, and then other things, and I'm putting more and more pieces of the puzzle together. But what I'm saying is, like, our profile, our multi-existential library of all of our interactions and endeavors determines how open we are to assisting certain groups that we have a debt to. How well are we going to be able to interact with them and change the quality of the relationship, which we've done bad things either against them or together with them doing bad things against some others. So that's a deep self-knowledge to be able to start to put those puzzles together. I remember Waldo saying to lots of people, no, you can't go to Africa. It's not for you. You know, it's like, no, he didn't say that to me. He said it to other people. And I'm like observing going, yeah, but why? Like, can't you just go? You know, like, and so, I mean, as an example, like, it's not, I'm okay. I went to Africa and lived there for 4.5 months for work. And so seems pretty good. But for other people, it's like, no. Oh, and Pentif, no, not for you. But for you, yeah, hurry up. What are you waiting for? Like, these are the questions like, well, why? And the solving of that puzzle, or the unfolding of all of those chapters and books and verses and sayings, and what have we done in our personal hollow biography, that's the key to that massive question you asked, right? And it's not a simple answer.
No, not at all. I think this is the relation with the past, present, and future, and how did we act, how are we acting, and what do we want to act in the future, being in intraphysical life and extraphysical period of time, but the connection with evolution, the evolutionary scale, and leaderology is very linked. And I think many of the things we learn are in those moments that we have to step up, and we have to put the old ego behind and say, I want to go forward. I don't know what I'm gonna get, but I believe I have help, because I'm sensing the helpers. I'm connected with a purpose. I don't believe, I know evolution exists for myself, and that's for me. I can't transfer that to anyone else. And realizing we can do many things, and maybe for other people that's not even conceivable, but for us, our daily lives, these connections, I think, brings the fulfillment that Jeff said, Marcelo also said. How can I do more? How can I be better? How can I be like those guys that I connected in the intermissive course? They are an example, and I see that's possible. I don't know how, all the steps, but I know it's possible. We're coming to the final minutes, and I would like to ask both of you to do the considerations, the final considerations, and then we can close your debate. We had many topics, so the final words from both of you.
Marcelo, do you want to go first, or shall I?
Go first. Feel free.
Okay. Yeah, look, I've got notes of paper that I've written all over the place here, and like I think the challenge is up to us. We determine our own rhythm and our own pace of our own evolution. If you want to go faster, you can go faster. If you want to sit by and just wait and check and see, you can do it. You're responsible for all the consequences of all of your own actions, right? This whole idea of self-leadership is down to self-responsibility, self-definition, self-determination, self-discipline, self-organization, all the many, many things we talk about in conscientiology, right? Those pillars of conscientiology. And so that's the challenge. What do you want? At least you don't need to know explicitly to be able to tell anyone. But if you know you've got to move, if you feel you're too frustrated, depressed, melancholic, something's not right, something's missing, just start doing stuff. Start trying to help other people. Start to look for things beyond yourself and your own belly button. And start to grow and try to grow and be more mature. It's in your hand, right? There's that great expression in Portuguese. What is it? The cheese and the knife are in your hand. Like, go ahead, either eat it, make a fondue, do whatever you want, but do something. You don't need anything more than what you already have. It's up to you. And then you go and you'll start to learn, and you enter in the flow, and things converge, and you start going, oh, hang on, stuff's working, it's happening. And that's just it. So don't be caught by inertia in your evolution. Go ahead. And
I would consider the following. Evolution, that's not 100 meters sprint. That's a hyper ultra marathon. So the key thing, like, there will be moments that you're going to feel pain. There will be moments that you want to give up, but the secret is just keep running. Just keep running. Okay, so set up goals every year. Okay, so self leadership, it's also connected with the self-management. So let's set up our goals, aspirational goals, things that you haven't not yet achieved, and then just keep going. You're going to make mistakes, you're going to have success, but the end of the road is continuous evolution. Okay, and then the first person that you need to give credit and own the evolution, that's yourself.
Very well. So we're coming to the end of our debate. I would like to thank everyone for the participation, the participants who are the reason of this debate, and the debaters who, in a transparent and unpretentious way, helped us to understand more about the topic, theorize of conscientiological leadership in different cultures. It was really a very good experience to be with you guys. I would like to see everyone in the next opportunity. And remembering that our debates always take place in third Sunday of the month from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Brazil time. So see you next time. And for everyone who would like to understand more about Leaderology, we have LIDERARE in the description of the video and the Invisible College of Leadership that we reunite online. We had some participants who were from other parts of the globe for a period of time. So these groups are opened, not only Invisible College of Leaderology, but there are many other invisible colleges that are open for people to debate, to discuss, and help contribute to the growth of Conscientiology. So I would like to thank very much Jeffrey Lloyd and Marcelo Pires for your presence and for everyone who's here online with us. See you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.